Look at the top left corner of the screen under the white bold logo. A single client suddenly fires 10,000 requests per second directly into your system. Follow that massive green flood of requests. As it hits the center of the diagram, your central processing unit spikes to 100%. Your memory pool evaporates and your database connections pull out completely. Now look to the right side of the infographic where the red crosses show what happens next. Real legitimate users are completely blocked, facing timeout screens and degraded service because one rogue script choked the pipeline. Most engineers think a massive spike like this always requires a distributed denial of service attack to take you down. Surprisingly, a single poorly written client loop running a retry storm can crash your infrastructure just as quickly as a malicious botnet. Slide your eyes down to the bottom half of the image where the solution layout begins. To protect your backend, you must deploy rate limiting to intercept these spikes before they touch your core servers. Production systems typically rely on Redis or Envoy to handle this enforcement layer. Redis gives you an in-memory global state store for massive scale, while Envoy handles it directly at the proxy level with lower latency. Look closely at the first box on the bottom left, because next we are breaking down the exact mathematics of the token bucket algorithm to see how it handles sudden unpredictable bursts of traffic. Look at the top left corner under the brand header, where you see the public API endpoint icon. Think of this like the front door of a popular nightclub. When you only have a few dozen guests arriving an hour, a simple bouncer checking identification at a leisurely pace works perfectly, but the exact trigger point changes completely the very millisecond a single misconfigured client script or a malicious bad actor targets that public endpoint. Follow the green lines from that endpoint to the middle tier of the image, right into the central box labeled rate limiting layer. This is your perimeter defense. You don't wait until the traffic penetrates your internal microservices or hits your database rows. Most engineers think adding validation logic inside the application code is enough protection. Surprisingly, if you let bad traffic hit your service logic first, parsing the incoming serialized payload alone can exhaust your thread pool before a single database query even runs. Drop your gaze to the bottom right section under distributed limits to see how this scales across production environments. When your cluster scales out to dozens of nodes handling thousands of concurrent connections, you need infrastructure tools designed for global state management. Two tools solve this today, Redis and Memcached. Here is the key difference between them. Redis gives you powerful native data structures like sorted sets for advanced tracking, while Memcached offers a simpler multi-threaded key value architecture for raw speed. Now let us look at exactly how this concept works, the mechanism that makes it possible. Look at the top left block labeled number 1 token bucket. Imagine a bucket filling up with game arcade tokens at a fixed pace. When a request comes in, it grabs a token and passes right through. But look at the faucet handle to the right of the bucket. If the bucket fills completely, any extra tokens just overflow and drop away. This means your system handles sudden bursty traffic perfectly up to your bucket limit, but it lets clients wild out if they consume all tokens instantly. Move your eyes right to the middle top section under number 2 leaky bucket. This acts like a water funnel with a small hole at the bottom. No matter how many requests you dump into the top, the outflow rate remains completely fixed and smooth. The massive downside here is that it adds significant latency for completely legitimate user bursts. Most engineers assume smooth traffic is always better, but if a burst happens, your users sit around waiting for the funnel to slowly drip their requests out. Now look down at the bottom left section under number 3, fixed window counter, and number 4, sliding window log. A fixed window tracks requests in hard blocks, like a calendar minute, which creates a huge vulnerability where a client can dump double their limit right at the boundary line. Look closely at the sliding window log next to it, which tracks a rolling timeline by recording a timestamp for every single entry. This fixes the boundary issue completely, but it consumes an incredible amount of memory because you have to store every single request log inside a sorted set. Shift your focus to the large diagram on the bottom. right labeled number 5. When you scale across application servers A, B, and C, keeping these window counts inside local memory breaks your logic entirely. Each node needs to read and update counts from the central database icon marked redis to prevent over-limiting per node. Two tools solve this today, Redis and Amazon Elasticache. Here is the key difference between them. Redis gives you open source flexibility to host your own shared cluster, while Elasticache offers a fully managed auto-scaling service built natively for AWS infrastructure. Next, let us see how a real production system at scale implements this with real numbers. Look on the far left at those millions of user applications. Let's talk about a real-world system, WhatsApp, managing 2 billion users. When your friend sends you a quick "on my way" text, their client doesn't just hit the main servers directly. That message actually gets challenged at 3 completely different infrastructure layers before it can ever be stored. First, look at that mobile app layer on the left. The app running on your actual phone handles basic rate limiting proactively, enforcing message spacing and preventing burst transmissions even before the request crosses the network. If your client detects too many rapid sends like 10 messages in 10 seconds, it will preemptively throttle you. Most engineers forget that enforcement must start on the device. Surprisingly, this isn't about blocking spam, but protecting against accidental client-side loops that would drain a user's battery while overwhelming your own API gateway. Follow the flow past the globe icon to the center, the API gateway layer at the edge. This is where your true distributed limits kick in across multiple regions. This gateway reads and writes thousands of concurrent user level quotas per minute from a shared data store, usually built with Redis. Two tools solve this today, Kong and Tyke. Here is the key difference between them. Kong offers an ecosystem with native Lua plugins for insane throughput, while Tyke focuses on simpler Go-based extensibility for rapid deployments. Now trace the path further right, deep into the microservices layer. Even after the edge gateway validates the sender's global limit, individual services still apply their own granular rules. Look at the message service box. It checks constraints like groups and limits to prevent mass broadcasts and destination level checks to protect specific recipients from being overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the media service over here explicitly counts your 5 media uploads per minute to tightly control costs and back-end storage bandwidth. Now let us talk about what owning this concept means for you in a system design interview. Look at the main title in the center, Interview Criteria. When your interviewer asks you to design any public-facing API, they are actually testing your understanding of traffic control. They want to know how you think about burst tolerance, not just which algorithm you memorize. Start on the far left, in the candidate's decision column. When you select an approach, you are signaling your understanding of user behavior and resource trade-offs. The absolute biggest mistake engineers make is just blurting out token bucket without considering why it's better than simple fixed window. Most candidates memorize algorithms but completely miss the core trade-off shown right in the middle. User experience versus system stability. Now trace the top path across the screen through that token bucket diagram. If you need to handle spiky traffic, you select token bucket because it allows burstiness while maintaining a strict long-term average. Look at that chart just above the bucket. See how that massive spike is completely contained within the bucket's capacity. When you choose this, you are explicitly communicating that you understand valid user patterns, like 100 requests firing instantly when a screen loads, followed by minutes of silence. Choosing this algorithm signals to the interviewer that you prioritize precise limits over absolute backend stabilization. Shift your focus to the bottom path, leading to sliding window. Most candidates assume you always want minimal latency on the backend. Counterintuitively, if you need absolute system predictability, you choose a sliding window approach to aggressively smooth that peak traffic. Look at that chart above it. It's a perfectly flat line. This choice prevents those massive momentary spikes from ever stressing your backend services and it signals to your interviewer that you have concrete knowledge of how to manage complex traffic dynamics and resource utilization. So in your next interview, don't just name the algorithm. Use this visual logic flow to explain why your choice matches the system's primary goals. This signals to your future team that you don't just build systems that work, you build systems that are robust and scalable. Subscribe for a new system design breakdown every Sunday. To keep going, check out the video in the description where we break down exactly how WhatsApp manages message consistency at 2 billion user scale.